the 19th of March, 1938. Imagine this. You're huddled in a crumbling storehouse on a remote Pacific island, pounding, knife hidden in your kimono, ready to choose death over dishonor. The enemy is at the door. The brutal Americans, your leaders warned, would strip you of everything. But what if everything you believed was a lie? What if mercy arrived instead of monsters? This is the untold story of Japanese women on Saipan in 1945, where the greatest shock of war wasn't cruelty, it was kindness. The war had ended, but for many Japanese civilians stranded on outer Pacific islands like Saipan, end was just a word. No more bombers thundering overhead, no more naval shells exploding like thunder. Yet, the silence hung thick with fear. For the women of a small village, surrender wasn't relief. It was a new nightmare. Rumors had poisoned their minds for months. Retreating soldiers hissed warnings through the jungle. The Americans show no mercy. They'll take everything from you. Better to die. Propaganda posters screamed the same horrors the enemy as savage beasts. Dishonorable and depraved. They had seen glimpses of American air raids from afar. Flames rising, houses collapsing, the sky burning red. To them, these flashes of destruction were not military operations. They were proof that the Americans were merciless demons. Some women had even buried their cherished belongings in the ground, convinced their captors would steal them. Others crushed family photographs so the enemy wouldn't defile the faces of loved ones. Every action was driven by the same belief. Death was cleaner than capture. Mothers urged daughters to conceal blades under their clothes. Grandmothers whispered that true honor lay in self-sacrifice. Can you feel their terror? As American patrols stormed the village, the women crammed together in the collapsed storehouse, clutching children close, bodies shaking. These weren't fictional heroines. They were real Japanese women. Farmers, wives, soldiers, widows, young daughters on the cusp of womanhood. Some women covered their eyes, not wanting their last moments to be spent looking at their enemy. Others held their children so tightly, the little ones whimpered from the pressure. A young mother named Hannah whispered to her baby, telling him stories of cherry blossoms falling in Kyoto, a place he had never seen, hoping it would be the last thing he heard, not gunfire. Such was the atmosphere. A mixture of terror, resignation, and love. Boots crunched outside. Alien voices barked commands. The door groaned open, sunlight piercing the gloom. A towering U.S. Marine stood in the frame, helmet low, rifle slung over his shoulder. His comrades fanned out behind him. The women pressed against the walls, eyes wide, willing themselves invisible. Through a translator, the words finally cut through. You are prisoners now. You will not be harmed. Stay together. Food will be given. Did they believe him? Of course not. They shuffled into the blinding light, kimonos ripped and filthy, hair matted from weeks in hiding. Infants wailed in arms. Toddlers clung to hands. They braced for rough grabs, mocking laughs, or worse. Every instinct screamed, this is it. The shame we've dreaded, but it never came. The soldiers formed a distant line, rifles lowered. No one approached. No one touched them. Instead, one Marine placed a bucket of water on the ground and backed away. Another set down a crate of food and stepped aside. The interpreter motioned. For you, eat. A trick. A trap. It had to be. But one brave mother knelt, scooped water into a cup, and drank. Nothing happened. A girl snatched a piece of food. Still nothing, but quiet, watchful calm. Slowly, fearfully, they ate. Broth warmed empty stomachs. Soft bread melted on tongues. Children slurped greedily, cheeks puffed. Mothers wept silently. And through it all, the Americans stayed distant, respectful, almost protective. What was happening? For the first time in weeks, some women felt their breathing slow, but confusion deepened. If these men were monsters, why did they keep their distance? If these men were cruel, why did they offer food without demand? If these men were violators, why did they avert their eyes politely? That night, they were led to a makeshift enclosure. Blankets appeared in stacks. One by one, they took them, waiting for the demand, the price. None came. The Marines posted guard, backs half turned, shielding rather than staring. Whispers rippled. Why don't they touch us? Isn't that why they came? A mother shushed her daughter, But the question burned in every soul. As hours passed, some women dared to peek at the guards through the cracks of the enclosure. They saw something startling. Not hunger or lust or hatred, just exhaustion. Some Marines looked barely older than the village's teenage daughters, their faces hollowed by months of combat. One soldier quietly placed his jacket over a sleeping comrade's shoulders. The women watched, confused. Could someone capable of such tenderness be a beast? Days passed, and the pattern held. Food, each morning. Water, refilled. Blankets returned, and given again. No soldier crossed the invisible line. One evening, a Marine dropped off a sack. Brushes, cloths, soap. For washing, the interpreter said. Gasps. Some recoiled, too ashamed. But one woman stepped forward and took a brush. She scrubbed her child's face until it shone. He giggled. Joy for the first time in weeks. Sachiko, an elder, whispered. We prepared to die for honor, but they give blankets. They avert their eyes. I do not understand. The march to the main camp dawned tense. They expected cruelty instead. Order. Food, Red Cross nurses. Medicine. Rice, fruit, bananas. Children hadn't seen in years. As they walked, some women noticed the Marines, gently directing them away from rough terrain, pointing out sharp stones, offering distance, but also safety. A few children stumbled. Each time, a Marine hesitated, wanting to help, but holding back, unsure if contact would frighten them more. That restraint shocked the women even more than kindness. Every kindness felt like a trap. Every gentle gesture felt like a trick. But days became weeks, and still no hands reaching, no shame, no humiliation, only boundaries, respect, distance. A young woman, wrote to her mother through the Red Cross. I feared death and shame, but they haven't touched us. They feed us. Maybe you will see me again. Letters became lifelines. Hope crept in. Medic checks came. Guards announced themselves before entering. No surprises, no violations, only order, restraint, and humanity that contradicted everything the women had been taught. Some even began to speak softly to the guards through the interpreter. Timid gratitude. Polite bows. A few Marines smiled, awkward but sincere. And with each passing day, the unimaginable happened. Fear eroded. Suspicion softened. Humanity resurfaced. By the time Japan surrendered, the women were alive, confused, safe, cared for, untouched. Months later, released and sent home. Barefoot and thin, but alive. They carried with them a truth almost impossible to explain. The shock wasn't cruelty, it was respect. Sachiko later told her granddaughter, I prayed for death before dishonor, but the Americans gave us blankets. They looked away. Mercy scared us more than cruelty. It shattered what we believed. And so, in a war remembered for brutality, one of its most unexpected stories was not violence, but restraint. Not hatred, but humanity. Full YouTube description. Long, powerful, emotional. This video reveals one of the most surprising untold stories of World War II, the unbelievable moment when Japanese women on Saipan prepared for death, only to meet unexpected mercy from the very enemy they feared the most. For months, Japanese civilians were fed terrifying rumors. The Americans will torture you. They will destroy your honor. Better to die than surrender. These words shaped their final moments. A hidden storehouse, children crying in their arms, knives wrapped in kimonos, and fear deeper than death itself. What you'll see in this story: Japanese women surviving the last moments of the Pacific War, their heartbreaking fear and desperate preparation for death, the surprising conduct of U.S. Marines who maintained strict respect, children tasting bread and fruit for the first time in years, Elder Sachiko's emotional memory about mercy-shattering propaganda, the moment humanity triumphed over war. This is not a story of battles, not a story of heroes or villains. It's a story of unexpected compassion in the darkest chapter of history. If this touched your heart, make sure to like, share, and subscribe for more powerful wartime stories that the world has forgotten.